What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Lollygaggers Dynasty NFL podcast. I am your host, Young RG. Oh, wait, that's another show that I do. I'm using the wrong intro. I'm Ace, welcoming in my good friend Zang. How you doing, good sir?
I'm back. I'm alive. The Patriots are atop the AFC East, and that's going a hell of a lot better than my fantasy football experience right now. So let's focus on that. All I said is don't win the first 3 games and then lose out.
And you won the first
And I won the first 3 games, and I haven't won since.
That's part 1 of that story.
So it's not looking good, guys. It's not looking good.
Oh, man. Totally jinxed yourself in that regard.
Yeah, this is what I get for ragging on cereal so much when that was going on. I think I may have angered the fantasy gods a little bit too much, and they needed to dish out some retribution there. So it's my own doing. Hey,
it's your own doing. It's the pod curse. It's
the
pod curse, as everybody
says.
Curse
is back.
But as we mentioned, another great week of fantasy, another great week of football. So let's dive right into it and getting into our matchup minute. And the first matchup of the day, we are going to talk about what was also the biggest blowout of the weekend. Al Martinet facing off against Rangers. Rangers, as we know, had that pretty awful start. Started 0-3 alongside myself. But since then, he has bounced back in a huge way. And to not, without, announcing too many spoilers here, Ranger did come away with the victory here. 170. I'm going to say that one more time. 170.78 points to 92.70 for Al Martinet. So, I will say this. Al Martinet wasn't the lowest scorer this week, but he was the second lowest scorer. So, if you're going to get blown out like this, we always say it's good for those to come.
Do it in your sub 100 week.
Yeah. when your team wasn't that great. So let's dive into a couple of the players. Excuse me. Why don't we dive into a couple of the players here, Zang, and tell me who stood out most for each side?
Yeah, so over on Rangers Cowboys side, I mean, obviously having Pat Mahomes there showing out is pretty nice. 31.48 points for him is really solid. Over 250 yards thrown, 3 touchdowns. You love to see that. Josh Jacobs too with 32 points, really solid for the running back. And of course, we don't want to forget Kendrick Bourne, who had a really solid performance over there for San Francisco. Wide receiver with 19.2 points. Jake Ferguson with his 12 and Travis Kelce with 13. He's got a nice sort of 2 tight end situation going on here. But of course, star of the show for him really was George Pickens there. 31.8 from the hometown wide receiver. You love to see that for Rangers Cowboys. And yeah, man, having Pat Mahomes going as he should be is certainly big for him. After that, 0-3 start, he has sort of done the opposite of what I previewed and bounced back at 3-0 since then. So he's sitting at 3-3. Over on Al Martinet's side, just not too much got going. For Jared Goff, 16.8 points, over 200 yards, which you love to see, a couple of touchdowns, but just not too much going there. And, 14 from A.J. Brown, who obviously, he traded for recently, so that's certainly big, but not too much aside from those two. We did have Daniel Jones putting up 23.4. I guess I should certainly mention that one. Love to see Daniel Jones, showing out now in Indianapolis. But just overall kind of a lower week, Just a few guys in double digits there for Al Martinet, and one of them was in the 10s. So Daniel Jones you love to see with 23.4, but shoot, not too much going there.
Yeah, not too much going there for Al Martinet. Like we mentioned, this was the biggest blowout of the week, 78-point differential here. Couple of bench blunders on either side here, but nothing that was going to affect the outcome of this game whatsoever. Al Martinet had Kenneth Gainwell with 9.6 on his bench. Oh my God. Rangers, wow, I totally lost myself there. Rangers had Harold Fannin, the Cleveland tight end, on his bench with 15.1 points. Like I mentioned, wasn't going to make a difference either way. This was a pretty easy victory for Rangers here.
Yeah, 78 points separating the two of them is huge. And
man,
we're definitely seeing the Rangers-Cowboys formula coming together here. I think as he's settled in a little bit, he's gotten tighter with his starts. He's definitely got Jake Ferguson working, and it does look like that stack he has of Mahomes and Kelsey is starting to pay off pretty well. Obviously, it bit him in the ass a little bit when Kelsey had some points there, and he ended up as one of the bench blunders, but paired them together this week. That worked out nice. Obviously, 13 is nothing to run to the bank about, but you'll take it exactly. And his running back room with Josh Jacobs and sort of leading it there is really looking impressive. And Pickens has had a couple of really, really nice weeks now. Second week in the 30s for him. So, shoot, it looks like it's all kind of coming together for Rangers here. I like the way he put it, that was kind of preseason for him, the first 3 weeks, and now we're really going.
No, 100%. And like you mentioned, Pickens has been absolutely popping off in the absence of CD Lamb. It's just, man, you would feel like the Cowboys would be a contender if they had any semblance of a defense. But Dak is playing at an MVP level right now. Ooh, excuse me. That offense is absolutely rolling. For fantasy, we don't care about wins. We just care about, points and statistics. And for that sake, the Cowboys are certainly proving to be one of the best teams in that regard. Moving on now to the second matchup of the weekend. We got Flaming Prius taking on Okie Sooner. Flaming Prius coming into this one as the record underdog, 2-3. Okie, of course, coming into this one as... Oh my God, mumbling over my words there. Okie coming into this one as the number 1 seed at 4-1, and a huge upset took place, and a statement, I would say, as well. Flaming Prius taking the win here, 178.44 to 112.38. Insanely enough, we have gone over two guys in these first two matchups that have gone over 170 points scored. Neither of them were the highest scorer of the week. So it was by mere fractions of points, but they were not the highest scorers of the week. If that just goes to show you how insane of a week we had. But diving into this matchup, Prius taking the dub here, led by the white boy, Tasmanian devil, as many are referring to him as, Cam Scattaboo, the guy who just looks for brick walls to run through. Don't even need to try to convince him of it. You show him wall, he shows you hole.
Yeah, he's speedrunning CTE is what I've heard. So
correct.
He's getting...
But for this season, in and of itself, we love it.
We love it.
We wish him nothing but the best and a healthy career, but man, with the way he runs, it's not looking good for him.
It's not looking good.
We'll stay on the positive side of it because he had a career day against the division rival Eagles. 19 carries for 98 yards and 3 tubs. Also had two receptions for 12 yards for a nice rounded even 31 points, leading the charge for Flaming Prius this week. We mentioned, of course, the Cowboys, Dak Prescott, with another fantastic game. 25-34, 261 passing, 3 tuds. For this season, that's been the typical Dak game, and he's been a fantasy constant, to say the least. He is currently the 3rd ranked QB in all of fantasy right now, Dak Prescott is. So that just goes to show you that they are really rolling right now. The Cowboys are offensively. Jonathan Taylor as well with a big day. Another big day. You could just pencil him in for 20 points a week, it seems like. 21 carries, 123 yards with the tub. Also added on 4 receptions for 14 yards. And Jamar Chase in what was not really garbage time, because the Bengals were always kind of in this game, funny enough, against the Packers. But Jamar Chase kind of showing that he's happy to have Joe Flacco here now instead of Jake Browning. 25 points for him. Funny enough, had a carry for -3 yards, but where he does all his work. 10 receptions for 94 yards and the touchdown. Another big day from the number 1 wide receiver. And then also wanted to throw out there, because this is a Superflex league, Sam Darnold, another really solid performance. Nice even 20 points with 295 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, and 2 yards rushing in that win over Jacksonville. Zang, why don't you tell us about some of the bench blunders here?
Yeah, I mean, so for Brias, what was obviously an unbelievable week. We have, 5 guys above 20 points. 2 more above 15, and he had 2 guys above 18 points on the bench. 20 points for Wendale Robinson on the bench, and then also another 18 for Jamison Williams. So what he pretty easily could have eclipsed 200 here with the right starts. Obviously, doesn't matter too much there. And, over on Oki's side, it's hard to really call anything a bench blunder. Technically, he could have gotten, I believe, just about 1 more point had he started someone over Puka Nacua. But obviously, Puka had, going into this week before the injury, he had scored 24, 36, 22, 27, and 23. So, no, you weren't starting someone over him.
No bench blunder there.
That's just not a bench blunder. I'm sorry. I'm putting my foot down. We're not calling it one.
We're stamping it. No bench blunder.
Won't do it. And, look, solid week for Oki. Jaden Daniels got 22 points. You love to see that. Zach Ertz with the stack there, 16.3 for him. A little bit more disappointing for Debo, who has obviously had a good few weeks for him there. And the Rams with 19. You love to see that big showing from the defense. But, we've talked about Oki a little bit having too many people in the wide receiver room in particular. Seems like it all just kind of didn't happen this week. And, I'm sure he's kind of wishing he could take some of those performances from the past few weeks when he had a couple of 20 points on the bench and put them in here. Not how fantasy works, unfortunately. But it does, you're certainly more of a fantasy guy than me. To my understanding, wide receivers tend to be a little bit more high variance than running backs or quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And I think we're seeing a little bit of that here with Oki, where he'll have those weeks where he's close to 200 points with this massive room. He gets all the right starts, might even have another 20, 40 points on the bench. Then there are also those weeks where he just doesn't quite get it all going. There aren't all the receptions. There aren't all the, his guys aren't getting the ball in the end zone. And sometimes this is how it comes out. 112 points for him, not terrible, obviously over that 100-point threshold that you kind of look to see at, okay, we had a pretty good week, but, it obviously didn't really end up being enough against 178 points from Flaming Prius.
Yeah, a lot. It's pretty easy to say not a lot's going to be enough against 178.
Yeah, there's exactly one person who would have beat him, and it would have been by a fraction of a point. So
correct.
It's not really on Oki.
Could you imagine if that was the matchup this week? 178 point whatever to 178 point whatever. That would have been wild,
crazy. Speaking of fractional wins, what do you say we slide on down to matchup number 3?
Let's go down to matchup number 3, and this was, of course, myself, Ace, taking on Sammy. This was a huge underdog for myself here, 1-4 after just getting my first week, barely last week. Started off the season 0-4. Sammy, of course, 3-2. This was, I thought I had it locked, and then I thought I lost, and then I didn't know what the fuck was happening. But this was an insanely weird game, so let's just dive right on into it. So I did just absolutely squeak out this victory here. This was the narrowest margin of victory in any of the games this week, by 1.26, I believe, if my math is correct here. Not a math pod. But yeah, I believe this was a 1.26 point difference, 143.42 to 142.16. Looking over on my side of things here, couple of Chargers leading the way, and when I say a couple of Chargers, I actually mean 4 Chargers leading the way for my team here. Of course, none other than the quarterback, Justin Herbert, 264, 2 touchdowns, 18.76 points. Not a massive game, but a solid game in and of itself. You will absolutely take that every week. The waiver wire pickup of the week, as I'm calling it, Kamani Vidal, with an absolute just out of nowhere performance, 18 carries, 124 rushing yards, adding on 3 receptions and a reception touchdown for a grand total of 22.8 points. Totally unexpected. You were talking about it, with the matchup prior to this about wide receivers and running backs. This is why everybody always says that fantasy leagues are won in the waiver wire, not during the draft, because there are going to be injuries. People are going to get hurt. Joe Burrow. So guys,
I don't know what you're talking about.
So guys are going to not be there. Guys that you are counting on are not going to be there for all 17 games. So you have to, just look at it in the last 2 weeks. Last week, what's his name? Running back from the Cardinals, Trey Benson. Obviously James Conner, horrible knee injury, out for the year. A week prior to that, following week after that, Trey Benson coming in as pretty much the number one running back. He gets hurt, and so then going into the following week, the big fantasy the big fantasy wire pickups were DeMercado or Michael Carter. Both running backs, both backup running backs. Obviously, both starting running backs are gone. So who's going to get the carries? Who's going to pop off? Everybody thinks it's DeMercado because it's just him on the depth chart. And lo and behold, Michael Carter ends up being the one that outperforms him. Similarly, in this week, Omarion Hampton and Najee Harris, literally quite same situation. Najee, season-ending injury. Hampton takes over, looks great in the backup role. He gets put on the IR after an ankle injury, and then now we have Vidal and Haskins as your 2 picks. Who's going to pop off? Everybody thinks it's Haskins, Michigan guy with Harbaugh. He gets named the starting running back prior to the game, and Vidal absolutely just stealing it from him. I think he had 75 yards rushing in the first half. So just a massive, massive game, and it just goes to show you how important the waiver wire is to success in these leagues. And, of course, continuing on with the Chargers, because it really was the Chargers that led me to victory today. Ladd McConkey with his breakout game of the season, 23 points even on 7 catches, 100 yards even with the touchdown. And Cameron Dicker, baby, Dicker the kicker.
Dicker the kicker.
Showing some kicker love, 17 points on the day, 5 for 5 on his field goals, 2 for 2 on his extra points, and of course the game-winning field goal with 5 seconds left on the clock to eventually give the Chargers the win. Taking a look over on Sammy's side, he put up a valiant fight, and when I say that I thought this game was over, going into Monday Night Football, I was up by like 50-plus points, and Sammy had Michael Penix and Drake London left. And before I get into them, a couple of leaders from him. Christian McCaffrey had a great day, 54 yards rushing with the touchdown, and 7 receptions for 57 yards as well for 24.10 points. And Bryce Young actually had a pretty solid day as well, 19.46 points from him. Just under 200 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. Did throw the 1 pick to get him below the 20-point mark, which kind of sucks, but a solid performance from him nonetheless in a win. So yeah, as I mentioned, going into Monday night, I'm facing Penix, I'm facing London. I'm like, all right, it's 2 guys, it's a stack, it's a little scary, but surely, as all I need is for him to just not constantly throw to Drake London. Michael Penix threw 32 passes, 16 of them went to Drake London. And in the first half, Drake London looked like he was going to absolutely stomp me out of this victory because I don't know what his exact stats were at halftime, but he had like 29 points, I think, at halftime. And what absolutely terrified me, if anybody was watching this game, Michael Penix at the end of the half, literally chucking up a Hail Mary, throws a deep ball to Drake London. He somehow breaks free. I don't know what the fuck the Bills were doing, but he manages to break free and literally get down to the 1-yard line and barely step out before scoring a touchdown going into half. If he scores that, I lose. So, I mean, heartbreaking for Oki to think I had no chance whatsoever, down 50 with 2 guys left.
For Sammy, rather.
For Sammy. To then now at halftime, this is easy. I need basically 2 more catches. Yeah, it's in the bag. Oh, man. And just for him to get shut down completely in this. I mean, like, this is like... I know, obviously, I'm saying this because I won this game, but this is truly why I love fantasy football and football in general, man, because it is truly a game of inches. And just by the tiniest of margins, the differences can be made. And surely in this game, you can certainly look to those differences there. Now looking at a couple of other differences, Zang, why don't you tell us about some of the bench blunders myself and Sammy had?
Yeah, so, again, we have some... 11.8, 6.7, not too much going on here. Ronda Gadsden over on your side with 11.8. Like I mentioned, he would have outscored Romeo Dobbs, who obviously, has come in that Green Bay wide receiver room, but would have been by just a little bit. And Tony Pollard with 6.7. Just slightly would have outscored Egbuka, who I believe was injured during the game, unless I'm mistaken. Yes. And, he had obviously had such a phenomenal start to the season, so hard to call him, but they do, of course, hit a little bit extra hard since, just over a point decided the difference between this one. As you mentioned, it was the closest, the narrowest win in this matchup, just over a point separated it, and Ace needed pretty much every point he got, which is good because he was 99% accurate. Basically as close as you can get to a perfect week. Just that one tiny little difference, less than a point between those two. And yeah, man, 99% accurate, and that pulled out the win for Ace. 2-4 now. Hey, not so bad. 2's a streak. We're alive. And Sammy, who was
gotta start somewhere.
You gotta start somewhere, man. Sammy, who was, coming into the week at 3-1, obviously near the top of the league, is now at 3-2, kind of grouped with some others.
3-2 coming into this
week.
Oh,
he was 3-2 coming into the week. Pardon me. 3-2 coming into the week is now at 3-3. At 500, kind of grouped in the mushy middle with a few of the rest of us. So it's a good reminder as I was making the standing segment. We're early in the season still. We're really early. There are 3 different records that people have. Like, it's still so early. So much can happen. 2 weeks ago, Rangers was at the bottom of the league.
Nope.
He is not at the bottom anymore. We'll talk about that in a little bit with the standings, but it's a good reminder of all that. But yeah, exciting win, obviously, for Ace, and a tough one for Sammy. And you do look at it a little bit. I've talked a lot about his formula, obviously. CMC did his job, certainly, but a bit of a weak performance from Saquon Barkley with only 8.7 there. So I'm sure he'll be fine. It's Saquon.
Yeah. Saquon.
But that's just something to keep an eye on. He's been a little bit up and down. He's had 4 weeks of right around 17 points, which is obviously solid. You love that. But 2 weeks in the single digits. This one with 8, and then week 3 with 9. So just something to keep an eye on with Saquon. And obviously, given the year he had last year, we were expecting some regression. Probably wasn't going to do all of that again, but definitely, just got to keep an eye on it for Sammy. But CMC did his job with 24 points. We love that. And as you mentioned, 31.8 for Drake London. Even though it didn't win him the game, phenomenal performance there. So, love to see it. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, look, I don't know. 2-4, not so bad.
Hey, it's still early. We got time. This is a 12-team league. 7 teams make the playoffs. Obviously, only the first seed getting that coveted bye. So there is still a lot of time. It's still a young season. Like we mentioned with Rangers, he was 0-3. He is no longer 0-3. And a turnaround can happen. Just the right guys got to get hot at the right time. And you could definitely see your team swing in some positive momentum there.
Absolutely.
Moving on to the next matchup of the week, we have KJ Lee taking on Anna Kendrick. KJ coming into this week, again, the record underdog, 1-4. Anna just above him at 2-3. And this was really the week of the underdogs because in these first 4 matchups, all the underdogs won. Underdogs, like I said, in terms record-wise. But KJ Lee did come away with the victory here, 178.52. He was the highest scorer this week to 147.08 from Anna. So let's dive into who led KJ to this victory here. And we have to start off with none other than the other Monday night hero who absolutely popped the fuck off for the Falcons, rather. That is Bijan Robinson. 19 carries, 170 yards. Say it with me again. 170 rushing yards. 1 touchdown. And as if he needed any more points, he had 6 targets hauled in for 68 receiving yards for a grand total of 35.8 points. I believe he was the clear running back one this past week.
Yes, that would be correct.
Yes, so yeah, I had a feeling there. Didn't check it, but it's pretty hard to go.
That's a safe bet. Yeah, 35.8.
Yeah. So massive day there for Bijan. And for the Falcons, really, that was a huge win for them to beat the Bills there on Monday Night Football. Another running back there helping out for KJ, DeAndre Swift. When I'm talking about Monday Night running backs, DeAndre Swift had a huge game to lead the Bears to victory against the Washington Commanders. 14 carries for 108 yards, and he did have 2 receptions, including that long one for a touchdown for 67 total yards. 25.5 points for him. And the other big leader, that man up in Seattle, I should say. I'm in Cali. That man up in Seattle who is proving day after day that he is a bona fide number one wide receiver. Jackson Smith-Njigba, 8 catches, 162 yards with the touchdown in that 20-12 victory over Jacksonville. Huge game for the young bull there. And he just, like I said, continues week and week to prove why he is that dude. Trey McBride also had a pretty solid game for KJ, dropping 21 points himself, 8 catches for 72 yards, and the touchdown. Moving over to Anna's side, Anna, I'm not quite sure what happened. I think he might have forgotten to set somebody in or put somebody in.
This is the third. Are you referring to the quarterback on his bench?
Oh, I was referring to the open flex spot on.
Oh, look at that! What do you know?
So I wasn't. That's where I was more focused on. But regardless, because I'm also now seeing that he has 3 quarterbacks.
Anna's the give me harder battles meme right now. He's just trying to win without a flex player. He's like, if I'm going to win, I'm going to fucking win.
You just need the self handicap.
Yeah.
Oh man. But either way, and regardless, any of those guys on his bench that he would have started in the flex spot wouldn't have mattered. It would not have been enough points. Any of those guys would have been to get him the victory here. But he did have some solid performances there. Devon Achane, the huge performance there. 31 total points on 128 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns. Also nabbed on 4 receptions for 22 yards as well. Hollywood Brown didn't have a big game receiving-wise, did catch all 4 targets for 45 yards, but those 2 touchdowns are what's going to propel him to that kind of elite status for the week. 20.5 points for him. And Dallas Goedert, if he was ever going to have a breakout game, this was going to be the one. 9 receptions, 110 yards, and the touchdown for a grand total of 26 points even. Zang, why don't you tell us about some of the bench blunders?
Yeah, so for the bench blunders here, again, a little bit of a surplus on Anna's side with these quarterbacks. Obviously, he made the trade for Jordan Love and is sitting with Love, Trevor Lawrence, and then Bo Nix, which is an interesting trio to have. I wouldn't say there's a clear number 1 there. There's probably also not a clear number 3. They're all kind of in that same area, so he's been shuffling them around a little bit. Jordan Love did put up 15.9 points there, which would have outscored Nix. But definitely, I don't know, something to keep an eye on for sure over on Anna's team. That's a tough thing to shuffle around 3 quarterbacks. And Anna, definitely let us know in the Discord there what happened with the flex spot. Whether that was, we would assume probably a forgot to put somebody in or whatnot, but let us know. Interesting week for Anna where he did put up the most points in a loss. 147 is a very, very, very solid performance. I believe he would have won against all but 3 people, all of those, 170s. So he was right up there, 4th place in scoring for him on the week. And obviously you saw that, as you mentioned, with the 30 and the 220s. But, we talk about, he's got so many guys in the 20s. KJ had 2 guys in the 30s. That's definitely going to do it. I just love that he dropped 60 points on Monday night. I think that's hilarious. Usually Monday is like the final push. You're in the red zone, you get it done, and he put up, like most of his points on that night. So I do think that's pretty funny. Over on his side, we did have Tyler Algier, who did put up 10.8 points, but not points that were needed by KJ. So the interesting Jordan Love situation on Anna's side is definitely one to monitor between him, Knicks, and Trevor Lawrence. And yeah, he's got a good number of Green Bay Packers is there as well. We did see Matthew Golden, who, the rookie, put up some solid numbers there. So interesting week for Anna, and definitely curious to see how he sorts out that quarterback situation, because there's not the clear, I think, man out there, but there's also not really the clear man in. And so I'm curious to see how that all shakes out for him.
Yeah, it's like that age-old saying, if you have 2 or 3 quarterbacks, you have none.
You don't have a quarterback, yeah.
and in a superflex league, that is brutal to have 3 quarterbacks and not have one. So
yeah,
we'll see what Anna can do if we can regroup here. 2-4. Speaking of somebody who's also 2-4, you're not out of it yet. Like we mentioned in our little rainbow we do of our standings, there's only 3 colors there, so that just goes to show you that everybody is within kind of a game of each other. And it's still anybody's league 6 weeks into it. Getting into our second to last matchup of the week, we do have Mike taking on Bose. This was the closest or second closest matchup of the week, and the also combined lowest scoring matchup of the week from the two teams. I believe it was only about, if I can do my quick maths here, 183 points combined,
like that. So just over what KJ scored by himself in the week.
Yes, correct. Yeah. So KJ could have almost taken on 2 people by himself and probably won. That's just insane to say. But let's get into the matchup. Mike did these both coming into the matchup 3-2, so a little bit of an even matchup here. Mike squeaking out the victory here, 94.48 to 89.32. So just over 5-point victory there for him. Let's take a look at some of the guys that led him to victory here. Ashton Genty had a solid week. 23 carries for 75 yards. Efficiency wasn't there, but he did have the touchdown, tacking on 2 receptions there for 11 yards. Chris Olave had a pretty solid week as well. 6 receptions for 98 yards, totaling 15.8 points for him. Caleb had probably one of his best weeks of the season, if I'm not mistaken. 19.88 points there. 252 yards passing. Only had the 1 touchdown passing, but did have 4 carries for -2 yards and a touchdown. So that's kind of funny. Didn't even realize that. But, you'll absolutely take that there. Taking a look over on Bose's side, Jalen Hurts leading the way for him. 283 yards passing, 1 passing touchdown. Did throw the pick, did have a tush push as well. So that, like I mentioned, 21.62 points there for him. Aaron Rodgers, another QB for Bose, had a solid week. 17.5 points there for him. 235 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. Had the 1 carry for 1 yard as well. And Cooper Kupp, the only other guy to score double-digit points on Bose's team. He only had 3 guys to put up double-digit points this week, and 2 of them were quarterbacks. And Cooper Kupp, who had 2 receptions for 40 yards and a receiving touchdown, 12 points there. So with all that, it was still a very close game. Why don't you tell us a couple of the bench blunders here, Zang? I'm sure these could have made a difference.
Look, toilet bowl is a harsh superlative to put here, but 2 teams under 100. Come on, guys. Let's pick it up here.
Over 500 coming into this week.
I know. Both over 500 coming in at 3-2. Josh Downs is a big one here. 16.2 points would have made up the difference for Bose and would have been his 4th player in double digits there. Over on Mike's side, we did have Xavier Worthy with 10. Would have helped him out as well. Bose was the lowest scorer of the week here at 89.32. And Mike, with his 94 and change, recorded the lowest points in a win. So I feel like a broken record here sometimes, but it's a game of matchups, guys. It really is. Yep. Mike would have beaten 2 people, and that is Bose and Al Martinet, and lucky enough for him, he was matched up with one of those 2. So comes away with the win and is now sitting at 4-2 with Bose 300 at 3-3. So hey, they don't ask how, they ask how many.
That's absolutely correct. At the end of the season, we don't look at how many points you won by. You just look at who you won, and that's Mike is going to come away from this game very happy.
Came away with the win.
Yeah, exactly, absolutely. All right, Zang, we held off long enough.
Let's get
into the final matchup of the week. Here we have my co-host Zang taking on JMC. Zang and JMC. Another 2 matchups where the both. Oh my god, I need to stop stumbling over my words. Another matchup where both contestants were over 500 coming into the matchup. Zang, unfortunately, as mentioned, or as teased earlier in the show, did fall to JMC, 126.42 to 109.38. So let's take a look at some of the players for JMC.
Yeah, shockingly, the Kolkmet game, the Legacy game, didn't happen. I don't know who could have predicted that one.
Oh man, man, who could have said Kolkmet Legacy game? Man, that guy's stupid.
I know what you're talking
about. So, anyways, going over to JMC, yes, led by none other than the revenge game, Rico Dowdle, taking on the Dallas Cowboys in what was a record 239 scrimmage yards from Rico Dowdle. That is the record by any Panther. That is Christian McCaffrey, Jonathan Stewart, D'Angelo Williams. There have been a lot of great running backs there, and Chuba Hubbard even, and Rico Dowdle is the one to break it. Like I mentioned, 183 yards rushing, 56 yards receiving, had the receiving touchdown, 4 receptions for a grand total of 33.9 points. He called his shot all week against the Cowboys, and man, did he ever live up to that expectation. He was running with a purpose this past week. Also looking at his wide receiver, Brian Thomas. Finally, I'm sure JMC's thinking to himself, finally Brian Thomas comes alive, albeit in a loss, but 8 receptions for 90 yards and the touchdown for a nice clean 23 points. Jordan, so nice to see that from Brian Thomas. Finally, the resurgence I'm sure JMC was hoping for. Josh Allen also had a pretty solid day in a loss, albeit 17 points for him. So I say pretty solid day. That's a pretty bad day for Josh Allen. He's usually good for a 20-plus point performance. He only had 180 yards passing for 2 touchdowns through 2 picks. I know the last one wasn't really his fault, kind of just, garbage time, but garbage time can give and take in fantasy, and it certainly took from Allen here. Fortunately for JMC, it didn't affect him in the win department, but you still hate to see that from Josh there. Taking a look over on Zang's side here, although his fantasy team faltered, I'm sure he was so happy to see his hometown team absolutely come away with a big win there. Drake May putting himself into MVP conversations after that performance. 261 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, 9 carries for 28 yards as well, and a 2-point conversion to boot, because why not? 27.24 points, as I mentioned. Other QB for him as well, Baker Mayfield, who is firmly probably the MVP favorite at the moment, putting up a massive performance for him as well. Pretty big performances for him as well. 19.64 points there, 256 yards passing, 2 touchdowns as well for and 14 yards on 3 carries in another win, another gutsy win that the Buccaneers were able to pull out. Baker Mayfield has just been on another level this year, and I truly love to see it as somebody who has rooted for him since the Cleveland days when they shipped him out and did him so dirty. It makes me so happy to see him have such success and the Browns still have such failure. I apologize, Browns fans. I don't mean it in that regard, but when you ship off this guy, this competitor for a gropist, or a groper, I'm sorry. I can't agree with that.
That's karma, bitch.
that is, yes. Life is a bitch, and her stripper name is Karma. So that is what it is there for the Browns.
Yeah. So look, on my side, Derrick Henry is unsurprisingly my number 1 bench blunder. As soon as I put him on my bench, I knew that he would be my bench blunder. This is just the way that it works. He had 4 straight awful weeks. Obviously, that first week he had 29 points, won me that matchup. Following that, he had 2, 10, 7, and 9 points. And I'm thinking, all right, it's time. I fantasied a little too hard. I was like, all right, Ramondre's got the good matchup against the Saints. Henry's going up against the Rams. They've got such a good rush defense. Didn't end up mattering. Ramondre with 1.8. Derrick Henry with 14. That alone wouldn't have made up for the difference. But if I had anticipated the injury to my tight end there, and put in Darren Waller, that would have been enough to take down JMC. I do think JMC pretty firmly earned this win, obviously with Dowdle, that big one. I'm very happy with Baker Mayfield, and Drake May is the fucking truth. That's all I have to say. 10 more years, baby. Let's go.
Saw that one coming. Yeah, that was a crazy that matchup. When I saw that on your bench, I was like, oh, that's just so brutal.
It's like Yeah, go ahead.
No. Yeah, I was just saying, those injuries really kill you, especially those early morning games. Sometimes they can really screw you over. That wasn't necessarily the case in this regard, but still, I mean, you got fucked. Let's be honest. You got fucked by injury. It happens. You know, that's fantasy, as
that's
some would
fantasy,
say.
baby. And just to sort of double down on kicking me while I'm down, Jamesy was actually the worst manager of the week, only recording 80% of his available points. So he had a mediocre week at best as a manager and still managed to kick my ass. Most of that, of course, coming from Jackson Dart, 23.6 on his bench, on his taxi squad there for the rookie. I have a feeling we'll be seeing him on the main squad sooner rather than later for JMC. Seems like they've got something cooking over there.
I think Tua is on his way out.
Yeah. So
I was going to mention really quick as well,
yeah.
Derrick Henry. He had 24 carries for 122 yards rushing, only 14 points. Oh, I say only 14 points. That guy should have had a touchdown. I don't know what the hell the Ravens, like, I truly don't know what goes through their mind on the goal line. I don't know why you trust Cooper Rush over Derrick fucking Henry to score a touchdown there on the goal line. That is just coaching malpractice. I'm sorry. This is Marshawn in the Super Bowl.
That's exactly the comparison I was about to make.
I mean, just not as big of stakes, obviously. Although with the current state of the Ravens, you really need every win you can get. So,
feels like the franchise is on the line right now.
Yeah, man. This is do or die for you guys, and I was absolutely baffled at the play call there this week in not giving him the goal line, and last week just not giving him the carries at all. I don't know. Your quarterback's out. Your MVP quarterback's out. You think we'd give it to the guy who's ran for over 2,000 yards before? Maybe not.
One might think.
One might think. I don't know. Who am I? I'm not.
And hey, of course, I'm going to start him next week. I promise I'm going to start him. You all know I'm going to start him, and he's going to put up like 4 points. And it's just the way this whole thing goes. But
the Ravens are on a bye week next week, so if he does put up 4 points, that'll actually be pretty insane.
From the grave. No. I mean, I'm anticipating the trade. He's going to get traded, and then, yeah, come on. Hey, no, I've checked my lineups for next week. What are you talking about? Come on.
It's only Tuesday.
In 2 weeks, I'll start him, and he'll put up nothing because that's the way it works. Let's slide down to our standing segment. We've previewed it just a little bit, who will be where. As we said, only 3 distinct records. We have our 4-2 group at the top, 3-3 in the mushy middle, and then 3 down at 2-4 in the bottom. JMC does lead the league at 4-2, followed by Okie Sooner and Mike at 2-3 respectively. Starting our group of 3-3, our 500 bunch in the middle, the resurgent Rangers Cowboys in 4th place. Sammy Yanks, following that tough loss, is still hanging on in 5th place. Flaming Prius in 6th, and Zangarang, the last current playoff team, in 7th. Bose just below that line in 8th, with Al Martinet in 9th. In 10th place, we have KJ Lee leading off our 2-4 team. Anna Kendrick in 11th, and Ace, our resident basement dweller, in 12th place. But not for long, baby. 2-4. Let's fucking go.
I'm not alone in the basement anymore.
You're not alone.
You're
not
company.
Alone.
Misery loves company.
Misery loves company. We're moving. There's motion.
There is motion.
Let's take a look at our team of the week. Motion. Obviously, some of our star players. These are all guys we've mentioned, of course. Pat Mahomes with his 31.48 for Rangers Cowboys. Love to see that. Cowboys will actually show up here 2 more times on this list. Not a surprise given how many points he scored. Bijan Robinson, we said already, 35.8 was KJ Lee's highest score. Obviously, our highest scorer as well. Rico Dowdle. Not to be put down in the running back department. 33.9 for him from JMC. Drake London and George Pickens both with 31.8, kind of tied for those wide receiver spots for Sammy Yanks and Rangers Cowboys respectively. Dallas Goedert with 26 points, our best tight end for the week. Josh Jacobs would have been the best flex with 32. Cam Scattaboo with 31 points for Flaming Prius. Of course, our super flex. No quarterback in there this week. Dicker the kicker, Cameron Dicker with 17 points was our best kicker. And the Los Angeles Rams with 19 rounds out the team of the week as they racked up those points for Okie Sooner.
Hell yeah, I love to see that. And now let's take a look at some of the guys who weren't on starting squads, who weren't on any squad this week, actually. Let's take a look at the wasted waivers of the week. And starting us off, we're showing some kicker love. Eddie Pinheiro, second straight week on wasted waivers. Maybe he gets picked up soon. 18 points would have been the kicker for the team of the week had he been started by somebody, but alas, he remained on the waiver wire. We'll see if he remains there any much longer. Somebody needs some kicker help. Moving on to the second waiver wire of the week. Nobody saw this one coming. Jacoby Brissett backing up Kyler Murray, or starting in place of Kyler Murray, I should say, the injured Murray. 21.7 points from him. Like I mentioned, would have never saw that coming. The Colts, pretty solid defense from them, and that guy threw for 320 and 2 passing touchdowns on it. So, I'm not going to lie, I was a bit scared for the Chargers matchup next week against the Colts after seeing what Brissett did. Maybe not so much. Yeah, maybe not so much. We'll see what Herbert can do. But yeah, so obviously that one's a little bit of a fluke because Kyler is fully expected to come back. This was, I think, just maybe like a 1 or 2 week injury. But that would have been a massive waiver wire grab and start if anybody would have foresaw that one coming. But the number one wasted waiver on the week, and it's your boy Zang, Kayshon Boutte, 26.3 points, and I promise you that is how you pronounce it. I am not saying it to be funny. That is quite literally how you pronounce it.
Drake May loves him some booty,
Drake May loves him some booty, and who doesn't? Let's be honest, who doesn't? But Kayshon having probably the best game of his career. 5 receptions on 5 targets, 93 yards. Not his career high in receiving yards, but his first career multi-touchdown game. Like I said, got him that 26.3 points. So massive day for him. I fully expect him to be picked up soon. It looks like Drake May is starting to trust him more and more. After that week 1 kind of pop-off performance in a loss, surprisingly, in which he put up 103 yards. Drake May kind of did not go to him following that. In that game, week 1, he had 8 targets, and then in the next 4 weeks, he had 3 targets or less in all 4 games. Like I mentioned, this week had 5 targets, caught all 5 of them. So when you give him the oh my god, what's the word I'm looking for? The abundancy, when you give him the supply of passes, he will, give you results. And for what it's worth, he was the number 4 wide receiver this week.
Yeah.
And he was on waiver wire.
On waivers, yeah. They're doing a lot of zigging and zagging here, the Pats, where Boutte came out and they were like, all right, this is the guy, this is his breakout year. And then Drake starts throwing to Stephon Diggs, and they're like, finally, Drake's got his number 1 receiver in Stephon Diggs. And that was all people were talking about coming into this week. And then, he threw to Boutte for absolutely everything he needed to. So, he looked good to me. Pick him up. Look. Look good to me. That's all I'll say.
The booty looks good.
The booty looks very nice. We did have a there are too many jokes with that name. I mean, come on.
Yeah, it's going to live on.
Yeah. We would be remiss if we didn't make the jokes. We did have a trade, actually, during this past week. where we had Flaming Prius send Tyquan Thornton and Bucky Irving over to Okie Sooner for Chase Brown and oh my God, and I had this name pronounced last week and now I forgot it. Give it to me, Ace. Teteroa McMillan. That's it. So we did have, I would say really our first sort of big trade go down as we had these two swapping sides. What are your thoughts on the trade?
Yeah, this is definitely, I would say a pretty even trade, although, let me rephrase that. This is a pretty even trade for this season. Because obviously Tyquan Thornton is not a high volume. That's the fucking word I was thinking of. Volume.
High volume.
High volume. When you give Kayshon Boutte a high volume of targets, he will produce. That's what I was trying to say. Jesus Christ. All right, sorry. But Tyquan Thornton obviously doesn't get a high volume of targets his way, but he is a deep threat, and you just never know. On occasion, he can take one to the crib. And so, there is a place on your team for those kind of boom or bust guys, on a good matchup on any given week. Maybe a guy's injured, you're on a hope and a prayer for him to pop off. He gives you that long touchdown, and maybe that's all he does, but that's all you need him to do. So there is value in there with Thornton, and there is value. I think he also returns kicks, if I'm not mistaken, so also potential for him to return kicks for those points as well. But the big piece that Prius is sending away is, of course, our Lord and Savior, Bucky Irving. He is currently injured right now. Like 80% of that Bucks team is. Yeah. They are, all three wide receivers, they're starting running back, like 2 O-linemen. That's not even getting started on the defense. Like, it's just, and this is why Baker, sorry to get sidetracked here, but this is why Baker's my MVP right now, because through all of that shit, he's 5-1, and they are atop the NFC. I just got to give Baker his flowers anytime I can. I am a Baker Glazer, I admit it, but I love anytime that man, does well, and to see him do well does my heart good.
Love it.
But yeah, and then on the other side of this, so obviously Bucky Irving going to come back from injury at some point. We don't know when that is, but this is Dynasty. So to acquire that good of a young talent at the running back position is certainly a big move for Okie here, and he did send away a lot to get him. He sent away a running back of his own in Chase Brown, another younger guy, not quite as talented, and for this year, he definitely is not going to prove to do much, obviously, with the Burrow injury. We'll see what happens with Flacco there now, if maybe they can scrounge up a couple of games for him. But the big piece that he was sending away is, of course, Teteroa McMillan, the rookie, coming off his biggest game of the year, fantasy-wise, with those 2 receiving touchdowns. So, obviously, 2 young pieces being moved here. I personally, in my regard here, I think in the long run, Prius wins this trade. I love Chase Brown in that offense once Burrow gets back. And I'm a huge fan of Teteroa McMillan. Although I'm not a huge fan of Bryce Young, I think a big-bodied wide receiver like him is just what a short quarterback needs. And I expect him to start going to him a lot more, as the year progresses and as that chemistry starts to build. But I do think Okie Sooner wins this trade in the now situations because, like I mentioned, Bucky Irving coming back, Chase Brown, as previously mentioned, not quite useful this year. Bucky Irving will come back and he will be a threat. He will be, a force on his team. And I think Tyquan Thornton can somewhat supply the hole that's going to be left by Teteroa. No way, replacing him, but will ease the blow of losing him just by that little bit.
Make up for some of it. Yeah, yes. Definitely. It's a damn interesting trade. I mean, like you said, Prius acquiring 2 guys who sort of aren't in the best situations currently, but obviously are very talented and great players. Sooner getting an injured guy and then kind of a boomer bust. It's a fascinating trade. I think I would have to agree with you that I do think Prius squeaks it out in terms of like total value, but Okie got some good stuff. And man, Bucky Irving that's a big name. That's a big name to get back in a trade. And I think that ultimately Prius is going to be okay with it, but there are definitely those weeks where he's thinking, shit, if I only had Bucky Irving. That's, I think we're going to see a fair amount of that too. Well, we will slide in now to our next week's notes. I'll kind of talk over what we're looking at in our matchups next week. Sammy Yanks versus Okie Sooner is our first matchup. Sammy at 3-3 with Okie at 4-2. They'll be facing off against each other. Ace at 2-4, coming off his second win, going up against Flaming Prius, who just recorded his third at 3-3, will be our second matchup. Mike at 4-2 is going up against Anna with the inverse record of 2-4. KJ Lee at 2-4 is going up against the 500, Bows, Bros, and O's. Zangarang at 3-3 is going up against Al Martinet, also sitting at 3-3, and JMC at 4-2 will be taking on the resurgent Rangers Cowboys, who are currently sitting at 500. Those are our matchups for week number 7.
Yeah, hearing those records, man, that's just insane to see that everybody has multiple losses. Everybody has at least multiple wins. Obviously through only 6 weeks, there is so much potential for, somebody to just get off to a horrific start with injuries. Not talking about anybody in particular.
Who could that possibly be referring to?
I don't know who that could be. But, there are situations that happen. Somebody could start off to a huge dominant start, drafted a sleeper that nobody expected, and, their team ends up being significantly better than they were projected, to go maybe undefeated by this point or only have one loss. So the fact that everybody has multiple losses and multiple wins up until this point already, it just makes me very happy, and to show that the league is very tight. And, obviously injuries, people will start to separate themselves as the year go on, but it's nice to see that kind of, even with all the injuries that have happened, all the teams are still kind of all right there with each other. There's no clear best team. There's no clear worst team. We talked about Rangers starting 0-3. He is now 3-3, and he has scored the 3rd most points in the league, if I'm not mistaken. So just an absolute huge resurgence from him there. It could happen to anybody. It could happen to you. It could happen to me at 2-4. So we'll see what happens there. But any final thoughts on the week, Zang?
No, not too much. Good luck in your matchups next week, and start your number 1 running back. Learn from me.
Our Lord and Savior Bucky. Thank God I'm playing Prius next week, and he won't have me.
You won't have Bucky. There you go.
Take care, everybody. Have a good night. We'll see you next week.